Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week we're parsha Matot, which is commonly read with Moshe. Matot, Moshe, a double portion, ending this book. As we're preparing to finish this book and get into the next one, we start to see everything kind of being summed up and setting us up for what comes next, right? We know that, especially in the Torah, the cycles, the seasons, the end of something is not the end of something, but a preparation for the beginning of the next thing. And so here we find in Matot and Maseh a lot of similar things going on. Matot, as we're reading, it's a couple. There really is a lot of things we can talk about and emphasize in here. But one main thing I wanted to address here is being faithful and fulfilling the call, or in other words, just saying very plainly, keep your word. There's things that are addressed here as they're on the edge of the land. They're getting ready to cross in. Moshe is preparing to give his final address to the people, to encourage them, to charge them, as he knows he cannot go into the land, but the people are getting ready to go into the land. And he wants to tell them, be steadfast, remain faithful, do all the things that the word has been given to you to do, to keep, so that when you go into the land, you will live long there and you will prosper there, and it will be a good place for you and your children. It will be a blessing. And these are the things you were to do when you were to go in. So they were given instructions, and when they went into the land, and as we see in Devarim, Deuteronomy, he looks back not just to give a history lesson, but to tell the people where they came from, where they're at, and where they're going, and to say, when you go into the land, when you go into the promise, do not forget these things, because there are things that we need to remember in the midst of walking in the promise. One of the things we need to understand is that if Yahweh has given us direction to something in his word, then he is willing and able to help us fulfill that call. There are things that if he wants us to do it, he will equip us to do it. How many times do we see in the scripture where Yahweh wanted someone to do something and they couldn't do it in their own strength? Miraculous things. I mean, Gideon, David, Goliath. I mean, all of these people have one thing in common. They had to trust Yahweh and follow him. And that's what we need to do as well. Yahweh said we need to walk in his word. Well, we need to rely on him and his presence, his Ruach within us to equip us to do that. There are times when we don't want to do that. There are times when just the old nature doesn't want to fulfill righteousness, doesn't want to walk in the ways that Yahweh has given to us. Well, that's something that we see here as well in this parsha. The people wanted something other than what God had given to them, and well, that's the way we are, right? But understand, if Yahweh says, I want you to do this, he will equip us to do it. Philippians 2:13 says, for the one working in you is God, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. In other words, Yahweh is willing and able to equip you to do what he has tasked you to do. In our life today, it is very simply to live in obedience to his word, to follow Yeshua all of our days. These are things that we can do, and Yahweh says when it gets difficult, when it gets hard, he is willing and able to equip us to lead us into that. Hebrews 12:1 and 2 says, therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also get rid of every weight and entangling sin. Let us run with endurance the race set before us, focusing on Yeshua, the initiator and perfecter of our faith. So if we keep our eyes focused on the prize, focused on the goal, right, then it's easier to work toward that goal. However, one of the things that we find throughout the Torah is, yes, the goal is important, but the process of getting to that goal is also important. I mean, they could have been in the promise much sooner. Instead, they ended up being in the wilderness for 48 years, or for 40 years. They could have been there so much sooner. I mean, but yet, you know, as they get to the promise, they send in the spies, and then because of their faithlessness, because they did not listen to the voice of Yahweh, then they ended up being there for 38 more years. So one of the things that we find in this portion is that, again, in the wilderness, there are plenty of complaints, plenty of arguing, plenty of strife. And what we've said before, in the wilderness, we tend to find ourselves in the wilderness, but this is the part of the idea. It is in the wilderness when Yahweh revealed himself to his people and where our reaction to that comes into play. How do we live life in the journey, not just the destination? Well, here they're poised for the destination. And now we see a little turn of events. Okay. Up until this point, when the Torah, we find the grumbling, the complaining, and all these things where people were desiring something that they had from the past. They were pining for something that they no longer had. They were focusing on the things that they were missing about where they were, because here they were in the wilderness, and even though they were oppressed in Mitzrayim, there were things they had that they did not have in the wilderness. But again, they were in the wilderness so long because of their own design, because of their own faithlessness. But yet here they are. They can see the land's right over there. Okay, this is the next generation. The land is right over there. So what are we going to do now? Well, now the issue is Reuven and Gad. They come and they say, you know what? Yes, that's the promise and that's the land, and these are the things that Yahweh says he's going to give us. But we really like it here. We think it's great right where we're at. And is it possible that we can just kind of stay right where we're at? I mean, can you imagine? They say, here we are, we're getting poised on the land, and Yahweh's going to take you in, and it's going to be yours. You're going to possess it, and he's going to bless you, all these things. And here we have two tribes who are saying, yeah, but we'd rather stay here. We kind of like it on right where we're at. We don't want to have part of that. I find that difficult to comprehend myself. But what we read is that they kind of based it on, lack of a better term, a business decision. They looked around and they said, well, where we're at now, this is a good place for herds and flocks. We have herds and flocks, and we can have a good spot for that, good place to thrive and flourish, and we can have our families here and raise our families, and we can do all of that here. My thinking is, oh yeah, but if you can do that here, how much more so could you do that in the land where he's taking you, right? This is just a precursor into that, but no, we want to stay right here. So let's take a look at it. What happens at this point? Numbers 32, 1-5. So the sons of Reuven and Gad had very large herds and flocks, and they saw the territory of Jazer of the Gilead were ideal for livestock. So the sons of Reuven and Gad, they came to Moshe, Eleazar the Kohen, and the princes of the community, saying, Atarot, Devon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eliela, Sevam, Nebo, and Beon, the territory of Adonai conquered before the community of Israel. They're suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. And they said, if we have found favor in your eyes, let this territory be given to your servants as a possession. Don't make us cross the Jordan. Interesting, because they said, well, this territory where we're in now, this is great for livestock, and well, we have a lot of livestock. I mean, it just makes sense that we would just stay here. Don't make us cross over the Jordan. So given this, what do you think Moshe's concern was? What do you think he was thinking was going through their minds? Right? And we have this. He addresses them and he warns them in the midst of it. He's not saying this is what you're doing, and he does kind of accuse them though of doing some things that came before. Right? We go into Numbers 32 verses 6-9. Moses replied to the sons of Gad and Reuben. He says, "Should your countrymen go to war while you dwell here? Why do you dishearten Bnei Israel from going across the land that Adonai has given to them? Your fathers did this when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. They went up from the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, but they discouraged the hearts of Bnei Israel not to enter the land that Adonai had given them." Moshe's concern with Reuben and Gad, I mean, he could have been saying you guys are being cowards, or he could have said that they were being faithless. Why are you going to cause this disheartening of the people? Here we are, we're at the edge of the land, and you're saying you don't want to go in to cross over, to go in and help your brothers go in to take possession of this land that I said I'm giving you? Why are you doing this? This is what your fathers did. When they went into the land, they saw it and they looked at it and they said, oh no, we can't go in there. He's accusing them of doing the same things, of going to the land and saying, wow, we like it here better. We want to stay here. Reminding them again, the incident of the 10 spies, it only took 10 people to dishearten the entire nation, to say, okay, yeah, the land's right there, but we can't do it. Well, here Moses is saying, what's going to happen if here we are, we're at the edge of the land, and you two whole tribes, not just 10 men, you two whole tribes are saying, yeah, but we don't want to go in there. Okay? It's like going to the land, but you can't go in it. No, they're saying we're here, we're at the land, we don't want to go in it. And so Moses kind of sets some things up for them. Now they're like, what do we need to do here? Moses says, you're disheartening the sons of Israel from going across the land he is given. Interesting, because literally, this is how he reads here. Belama is why tinuun et lev b'nei Israel. It says, why discourage the Aleph Taf heart of the sons of Israel? Not even the hearts of the sons of Israel, the Aleph Taf heart of the sons of Israel. And I take this to mean as well, the heart of Israel was to walk in the promise that Yahweh had given to them. And here they are, they're distracting, at the very least, distracting from what the heart of the Father was for his people, to go into the land and to take possession of it and to go into the promise. And he says, your task is to not dishearten your brothers. You are to join with your brothers and to go in and take possession of the promise as it was told to you. It is your place to walk in faith with the family of Israel, the sons of Israel, and to stand in the promise of Yahweh and go into the land and to fulfill the word that Yahweh has given to you. Makes me think of a few other things. Colossians 3:23-25 says, whatever you do, work at it from the soul as for the Lord and not for people. For you know that from Yahweh, from the Lord, you will receive the inheritance as a reward. It is to the Lord Messiah you are giving service. For the one doing wrong will be paid back for what he did wrong. There is no favoritism. In other words, whatever you're doing, do for Yahweh. Do as unto you're doing it for Yeshua. Do it unto the Messiah. And that way it is a blessing in everything you do. And if you're blessing Yahweh, you're obviously going to be blessing his people as well, right? Same thing with these sons of Reuven and Gad. They're like, no, we like it better here. This is what we want. And y'all can go on ahead, right? Again, Hebrews 12:12-15 says, what is our place? To strengthen one another, lift each other up, not be ones to dishearten one another. In the heat of battle, we have people turning and retreating and not standing in faith. It's going to strike fear in the people in the midst of a battle. You need to stand with one another and lift each other up and help each other out. There's strength in that. Hebrews 12:12-15 says, strengthen the hands that are weak, the knees that are feeble, make straight paths for your feet, and so that what is lame will not be pulled out of joint, but rather be healed. Pursue shalom with everyone, and the holiness without which no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and see to it that no bitter root springs up and causes trouble, and by it many are defiled. 2 Corinthians 13:11 says, finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice, aim for restoration, encourage one another, be of the same mind, live in shalom, and the God of love and shalom will be with you. Okay, so what we find here is Moshe is telling them, you're acting faithless, and by doing so, you can dishearten the rest of Israel. Wait a minute, why do these guys not want to go across? What do they know that we don't? No, my goodness, should we go across? What's going to happen now, right? No, we need to stand together and walk together in the promise. And even the way that they came to Moshe and told them their idea, their plans, was kind of out of order as well, right? I mean, in Numbers 32:16-19, if you compare that to verses 20-24, you see there's a change of focus that's happening here. In verse 16, it says, they came near and they said, we will build sheepfolds for our livestock and cities for our little ones. But we will take up arms, ready to go before the people of Israel until we have brought them to their place, and our little ones shall live in the fortified cities because the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan to the east. So what they said is, well, here's what we're going to do. We'll build the pens for our livestock, and we'll make sure we have houses for our families. But we will go with you, and we will help the sons of Israel to go and take possession of the land that is given to them. And once they go into the land, we want to return back here and to have this place here. So initially, where it was sounding like, no, we kind of want to stay here, y'all go on ahead. Now they're saying, okay, well, we will go, but we want to come back here. We want this place to be an inheritance for us. We want this to be right here. And even in that, Moshe attempts to change their perspective on that. See, in their appeal, they mention multiple times the people of Israel, right? But Moses, 6 times in his talking to them, his answer to them, he points them back to Yahweh as their focus, not just their brothers. He says, it's not your brothers that you're serving. You're not doing your brothers a favor by going in ahead of them. You are being obedient to what Yahweh has said. So you are being faithful to the words of Yahweh if you go in and help them to go into the land. That's not a favor. That's obedience. So you're doing what you're supposed to do. So he's telling them, he's pointing them back. It's not your brothers you're serving here. It's Yahweh you're serving here. And then Moses kind of changes the order for them. Okay. He says in verses 20 to 24, so Moses says, if you will do this, you will take up arms to go before Yahweh for the war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan from before Yahweh until he has driven out his enemies from before him. And the land is subdued before Yahweh. Then after that you shall return and be free of obligation to Yahweh and to Israel. And this land shall be your possession before Yahweh. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against Yahweh, and be sure your sin will find you out. Verse 24, build cities for your little ones and folds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. Notice the order. He changes the order of what they said to Moshe, where they said, we'll build pens for our livestock, and we'll make sure our families have homes, and we'll go, right? Well, Moshe is changing that order. He's changing their focus. He said, first off, build the homes for your families, build the dwellings for your families, then make the pens for your livestock, and you keep your word to what you have said. You will go over armed into the land before your brothers. He's not even saying that they're going over with them. He said, you're going to go ahead of them. And this is what you really want. This is the price you're going to pay. You're going to go in front of your brothers, and you're going to go in to help them take possession of the land. Then, after that is done, you can return back to this place for your inheritance. In essence, Moshe says they will be halutzim for their brothers. Halutz is the word for armed, to be armed. Halutzim is an interesting word, though, because it means someone who is a forerunner, someone who was to go ahead, someone who's armed, who makes a way, or even kind of implies like a pioneer kind of thing, someone who goes ahead and makes a way for those who will follow. Okay, in other words, it's going to be tougher for you, okay, but you're going to make the path available for those to come after you. And so we see another picture of this as well. In Hebrews 6:20, Yeshua is referred to as Yeshua Hehalutz, Yeshua the forerunner. And this is in reference of him going behind the veil, being a forerunner on our behalf, being a Kohen Gadol forever. So we have a picture of this, Yeshua being a forerunner, going in before all of the other people. Before he was going in to make a way and provide the way for us to have access to the promise of Yahweh, namely Yahweh himself. He is going in behind the veil to make a way for us. He laid his life down for his sheep. And this is what Moshe was asking the people to do, which brings us to some thoughts here. Do we sometimes need to lay down our own desires for the greater of the community? Do we sometimes need to put down, things that we want, things that we desire for the benefit of everyone else? Here, the Reuven and Gad, they wanted to have this inheritance over here, but first, before they could do that, they had to go help their brothers. Okay, Philippians 2, 3, and 4 says that everything you do nothing out of rivalry or vanity, but in humility, regard each other as better than yourselves. Look out for each other's interests and not just for your own. Romans 12, 10, and 11 says, love each other devotedly and with brotherly love, and set examples for each other in showing respect. Don't be lazy when hard work is needed, but serve the Lord with spiritual fervor. Yeshua told us to be careful of the words that we speak and to follow through on what you say. Okay, this is another thing we see important. Be faithful to the call. Keep your word. Do what you have said you will do, which is how, interestingly, as we're closing out this book, it's reemphasized again. If you make a vow, keep it. Well, it's the same thing we're seeing here. They're told, if you make a vow, keep it. And they're like, hey, we want to stay on this side, but we'll go help you. Okay, you should. You better keep your word. Do what you have said. Yeshua put it this way, Matthew 5:37, let yes be yes, no be no. Anything else is from the evil one. So We have here Yeshua saying, say yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no. Don't string people along if you have no intention of either way, yes or no. What we need to do is to be people with integrity, be honest about what we're thinking, and be able to help people in that. If you mean yes, say yes. If you mean no, say no. Right? Leviticus 19:12 says, "You are not to swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am Adonai." Back to what Yeshua was telling us, don't start, make oaths and swearing and doing things. No, he essentially equates everything that you say to have the same weight as if you were making an oath or swearing something. The idea here is everything you say, you are accountable to. It's not just, oh, you're only accountable to the things that you make an oath by, or you're only accountable to things that you swear by. No, you are accountable to the things that you say, even in the daily life. And so this is why Yeshua told us the importance of keep your word. When you keep your word, that means you're going to lay down your life. You're looking to the needs of others over a lot of the things that we have ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that there are things in life that you need that you can't take care of. No, not at all. But again, consider we're not to live a selfish life. We're to be able to help each other out and to lift each other up and to be there and to help Israel go into the promise. And that means we're going to have some involvement there. John 15:13, Yeshua says, "No one has a greater love than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." So again, how is this relevant to vows? Keep your word. Build up one another and look after one another. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no harmful word come out of your mouth, but only what is beneficial for building others up according to the need, so that it gives grace to those who hear it." The things that we are saying, are we willing to follow through on it? They're just empty words. They're just vain words. It says if we are just speaking empty words, vain words, we can put ourselves in a place where we are profaning the name of Yahweh because we're not saying it with the intent of following through on it. And what happens if we make a commitment to something and now all of a sudden it becomes inconvenient for us? Are we going to continue to follow through on the things that we said, even though now it's inconvenient, or are we going to keep our word? See, we need to have that level of integrity in our lives. The commitments and the words that come from us, it is important to our life, and it is a character reflection on us, but not just us, but it is a reflection on the one that we serve, and that's why we are accountable to the things that we say and the things that we do, because people will look at you, and as the scripture says, they will glorify your Father in heaven when they see your good deeds. But what happens if they don't see us doing good deeds? What happens if they say us falling back on our word, not keeping our word, not doing the things that we said, not following through with commitments that we've made? They're not going to bless the name of Yahweh by looking at us in that regard. So we need to make sure that whatever we're doing to lift up the name of Yahweh, so that when people see us and they see the things that we do, that it will be a blessing to Yahweh in the midst of that. Ecclesiastes 5:1-6 says, "Do not be quick with your mouth, nor hasty in your heart to utter a word in God's presence. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few. As a dream comes with excessive burdens, so a fool's voice with too many words. When you swear a vow to God, don't delay in fulfilling it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you vow." Verse 4, "It is better for you not to vow than for you to vow and not pay. Don't let your mouth lead your flesh to sin. And don't say before the messenger, 'It was a mistake.' Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? Many dreams and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God." Very simple with this. What he's saying is don't say you're going to do something and don't do it. Don't make a commitment to something and then not follow through. Whatever you say you're going to do, do. I mean, how many times have we heard things like, "God, if you just get me out of this mess, I will." Fill in the blank, whatever it is. We have to be careful of that. Don't do that, because we're making a vow out of rash. We don't really mean it. We just want out of the situation. We don't want to really follow through on our commitments to things. That's why King David says, "I will fulfill my vows, even the ones that I said when I was in distress, even the ones that I may have uttered that I wasn't really thinking clearly, wasn't really thinking straight, but I said it, therefore I'm going to do it. I will fulfill my vows to Yahweh. I will do that." And you're not commanded in the scripture to make a vow anywhere, but yet the Torah regulates if you do make a vow. then there are things you need to follow through on that. That's why he says it's better to not vow than to vow and to not follow through with it. So we have to be careful with that. Again, we're talking about integrity. And then he says, don't let your mouth lead your flesh to sin. Well, yeah, don't speak things that you're not going to have the means to follow through on that. James puts it this way. James 1:19-20 says, "Therefore, my dear brothers, let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. For a person's anger does not accomplish God's righteousness." So we have something else in here. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. Why? Because a lot of times we'll jump into something before we know all the details, right? We'll jump into something and we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into, but now you're committed to it. And even in the be slow to get angry, that kind of falls in line with that too, because we may not know all the details and just we get angry and then you just kind of go off on something, but we don't have all the information. Be careful, because even in that, a person's anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. That's true. Because if you get really angry, you're not really thinking about righteousness of Yahweh. You're not really thinking about his word and what he wants and what he desires. We're blinded by rage, blinded by the anger. And then there are things we have to come back and possibly repent for after the fact, right? So better off to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry, and to hear things out before you make commitments to them or just to go off and through them. James 5:12 says, "Above all, friends, do not use an oath when you make a promise. Do not swear by heaven or by earth or by anything else. Say yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no, and then you will not come under God's judgment." These are the same things that Yeshua told us as well. Let your yes mean yes. Let your no mean no. And follow through with it. Follow through with that. Right? And if there's areas that we need to repent and change because of that, then do that. But for the most part, what we're looking at is mean what you say. You say yes, you say you're going to do something, do it. You say no to something, then don't do it. Okay? I mean, on a small scale, but it's still the same premise. If you're in a store, your child wants something, you don't have the money for it, you say no. Well, if the child now becomes, let's just say, persuasive, in whatever way that may manifest, if you give in and give it to them, what you were teaching them is no does not mean no. You are teaching them no means yell, kick, scream, be louder until I get what I want. And we're not teaching them proper boundaries. And sometimes no means that this means no. And then sometimes no means not now, right? But still, we still have that premise we need to follow. And Yahweh's the same way. Sometimes when we're speaking to him, he might say, yes, this is what I want for you. Go do it. He might say no. And then there are times when he says, not yet, right? We're not ready for some of these things. But in relationship to our Torah portion, what the children of Reuven and Gad were told, that, okay, if they will fulfill their vow, if they will commit what they have promised to go into the land before their brothers and to help make the way, lead the way, help make the way for them to inherit the land, then they can return back to on the east side of the Yarden, and then they can have the possession over there. However, what we do find is a half tribe of Manasseh was put with them. And that's a whole nother interesting scenario to get into. We don't see the record that Manasseh was asked to be put with them, but the half the tribe was put with them for many different reasons. We can speculate. One, if there's a dispute between the two tribes, Gad and Reuben, well, who was one that can stand impartial to help bring resolution? It would have to be somebody else. So that would be the tribe of Manasseh that was there as well. And again, to have the three people on the one side, they can stand together on that side. But then Manasseh will also have a portion in the land, and so they can still have that connection into the other side of the Jordan as well. A lot to be said in this portion, guys, but that's all that I've got for you today. Okay, so I pray this has been an encouragement to you. I hope we find even in this the words of Yeshua and the words of life that he has given to us. I hope it's been a blessing, and if it has, then please share it. Whatever avenue that you watch or you listen to the video, please share them. Help get the word out there. If it's been a blessing to you, if it's been an encouragement to you, then it's likely going to be the same to somebody else, right? So do that. Share it, get out there, and help the word to be present in someone else's life. And if this has blessed you, then please consider making a donation to help us continue these videos to go out there, so we can continue to make them, continue to put them out there, and they can continue to be out there, fulfilling the word, fulfilling the call, to help encourage the body, right? That's what we want. So until next time, be blessed and be a blessing. Shalom.